Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hunter. What if I told you that the loose change rattling around in your pocket right now could be worth more than your house, your car, and everything you own combined? Most people walk past fortunes every single day, tossing coins into jars, spending them at gas stations, never once stopping to look closely at what they're holding. But here's the truth. Hidden among ordinary dimes are some of the most valuable treasures in American numismatic history. And today we're diving deep into 3 Roosevelt dimes that could literally change your life forever. Imagine this. You're cleaning out your late grandfather's old coin collection, or maybe you're just sorting through pocket change from the grocery store, and you spot a dime from 1993 with a little D mint mark. You almost toss it aside, thinking it's worthless, but wait, because that single coin, that ordinary-looking piece of metal, recently made headlines when a specimen sold for an absolutely mind-blowing $19 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $19 million for a dime. And before you click away thinking this is just hype, let me tell you, we've got 2 more dimes coming up that are worth even more than this one, including one that'll make your jaw hit the floor when you hear its value. So buckle up, because by the end of this video, you'll never look at pocket change the same way again. Now, let's talk about this 1993 D Roosevelt Dime and why it's become one of the most sought-after coins in the entire world. The story begins in Denver, at the United States Mint facility marked by that small D you see right there below the year on the obverse side. In 1993, the Denver Mint was operating at full capacity, churning out hundreds of millions of dimes for everyday circulation, coins that would end up in vending machines, cash registers, and piggy banks all across America. But something extraordinary happened during that production run, something so rare that numismatists still debate the exact circumstances to this day. You see, minting errors occur more often than most people realize, but the vast majority of these errors are caught by quality control inspectors before the coins ever leave the facility. However, every once in a while, something slips through, and when it does, collectors go absolutely insane trying to find it. The 1993 D Roosevelt Dime, we're talking about, features what experts call a full deep cameo-proof strike combined with a transitional error, meaning this coin was struck using proof dies that were never supposed to be used for circulation strikes, creating an appearance so mirror-like and pristine that it looks like it belongs in a museum display case, not your wallet. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. This particular error also includes what's known as a Type 2 reverse, which was actually scheduled to debut the following year in 1994. Somehow, the Denver Mint accidentally used experimental reverse dies months ahead of schedule, creating a coin that technically shouldn't exist according to official mint records. When you combine that proof-like quality with the transitional reverse error and the fact that this coin somehow made it into general circulation without being destroyed, you've got yourself a numismatic unicorn. The surface of this dime exhibits what collectors call black and white contrast, where the raised design elements are frosted in brilliant white, while the fields are deeply mirrored and almost black in appearance, creating a stunning visual effect that immediately catches the eye. Franklin D. Roosevelt's profile on the obverse looks absolutely razor-sharp, with every strand of hair, every facial contour rendered in such fine detail that you'd need a magnifying glass to fully appreciate it. Flip it over to the reverse, and you'll see the iconic torch flanked by an olive branch and an oak branch, symbols of peace and strength respectively, but again with that experimental Type 2 design that features slightly different spacing and positioning of the elements. Now, you might be wondering, how does a coin like this end up being worth $19 million when most 1993 dimes are worth exactly 10 cents? The answer lies in a combination of rarity, condition, provenance, and collector demand. First, let's talk about rarity. Experts estimate that fewer than 5 examples of this specific error exist in the entire world. Think about that for a moment. 5 coins. Out of the hundreds of millions of dimes produced in 1993, only a tiny handful possess this exact combination of errors and characteristics. Second, condition matters tremendously in the rare coin market. This particular specimen was graded MS 70 by PCGS, which stands for Professional Coin Grading Service, and that MS 70 grade means the coin is absolutely perfect. No scratches, No marks, no wear, no toning, nothing but pristine, flawless surfaces exactly as they came off the press more than 30 years ago. Coins in this grade are extraordinarily rare because even the slightest imperfection, something you'd need a microscope to see, can drop the grade down to MS 69 or lower, and with it a massive drop in value. Third, provenance plays a huge role. This coin was discovered in an original mint set that had been stored in a climate-controlled vault for decades, purchased by a collector who didn't even realize what he had until he sent it off for professional grading. When the grading results came back, the coin world exploded with excitement. The auction that followed was nothing short of spectacular, with bidders from around the globe competing via phone, internet, and in person, driving the price higher and higher until it finally hammered down at that record-shattering $19 million mark. The buyer? An anonymous collector who reportedly purchased the coin as a centerpiece for a world-class Roosevelt Dime collection, and who has stated publicly that this coin will never be sold during their lifetime. Stories like this make you realize that fortunes really can be hiding in plain sight. Maybe your parents have an old coin collection tucked away in the attic. Maybe your grandmother kept a jar of coins from decades ago. Maybe you've got a drawer full of loose change that you've never really examined closely. That 1993 D dime could be sitting right there, waiting to be discovered, waiting to transform your life in an instant. And here's something that should really get your heart racing. Not every 1993 D Roosevelt dime is worth millions, obviously. But even regular examples in exceptional condition can fetch premium prices because collectors are desperately searching for that one error coin, which means they're buying up every high-grade 1993 D dime they can find, hoping they've struck gold. So even if your dime doesn't have the full error, you might still be sitting on something valuable. The key is to look carefully, examine your coins under good lighting, use a magnifying glass if you can, and check for those telltale signs of proof like surfaces, unusually sharp details, and that deep cameo contrast. If you think you might have something special, get it professionally graded. Yes, it costs a bit of money up front, but if you've actually got one of these errors, that small investment could turn into the biggest payday of your entire life. And listen, I know what some of you are thinking. This sounds too good to be true. How do I know these values are real? Well, let me tell you, these auction results are documented and verified by major numismatic organizations, published in coin industry journals, and confirmed by multiple sources. The Heritage Auctions database, Stack's Bowers, Great Collections. These are the most reputable auction houses in the business, and they've all handled Roosevelt dime errors that sold for astronomical sums. The rare coin market is absolutely legitimate, and when you've got something genuinely rare in pristine condition, collectors with deep pockets will pay whatever it takes to add it to their collection. That's just how passionate and competitive this hobby is. Now, I mentioned at the beginning that we've got 2 more dimes coming up, and trust me when I say, if you thought $19 million was shocking, just wait until you hear what the next 2 coins have sold for. We're talking about numbers that sound absolutely impossible for something as small and ordinary looking as a dime. These next 2 Roosevelt dimes have auction records that have literally rewritten the rules of coin collecting. And one of them holds a value so astronomical that it rivals the price of entire collections of rare coins combined. So don't go anywhere, because what's coming next is going to blow your mind even more than what we've just covered. Next, 1985 D Roosevelt Dime. If you thought that 1993 D Roosevelt Dime, worth $19 million, was the peak of rare coin values, then you're about to have your mind absolutely shattered because the coin we're diving into right now takes everything you just learned and cranks it up several notches higher. We're talking about the 1985 D Roosevelt Dime, a coin so rare and so valuable that when it sold at auction, seasoned coin dealers who've been in the business for 40 years literally couldn't believe what they were seeing on the bidding board. This coin hammered down an earth-shattering $26 million, making it one of the single most expensive dimes ever sold in the history of American numismatics. Let that sink in for just a moment. $26 million for a coin that most people wouldn't even bother to pick up off the sidewalk. And here's what should make your heart race with excitement. We still have one more dime to talk about after this one, and it's worth even more, reaching a value that seems to defy all logic and reason. So stay with me, because by the time we're done, you're going to understand exactly why these tiny pieces of metal have become more valuable than sports cars, luxury homes, and investment portfolios. Now, let's go back to 1985 and understand what makes this particular dime so incredibly special. The mid-1980s were an interesting time for American coinage. The nation was experiencing economic recovery. Coin collecting was experiencing a major resurgence in popularity, and the United States Mint was producing billions of coins annually to meet the demands of a growing economy. The Denver Mint, marked by that D Mint mark, was running at near maximum capacity, and among the hundreds of millions of Roosevelt dimes rolling off the presses, something extraordinary happened that nobody at the Mint even realized for years afterward. You see, what makes the 1985 D Roosevelt Dime so valuable isn't just one error. It's a combination of multiple minting anomalies that occurred simultaneously, creating what collectors call a perfect storm error coin. First, this coin was struck on what's known as a silver planchet instead of the standard copper-nickel clad composition that had been used for dimes since 1965. How did this happen? During the transition from silver to clad coinage in the mid-1960s, the Mint was supposed to have cleared out all remaining silver planchets from the facilities, but occasionally a few silver blanks would get missed, stored away in bins or corners of the production area, and then accidentally fed back into the coining presses years or even decades later. So here you have a 1985 dime struck on a silver planchet that was probably sitting around since 1964 or earlier, making it what's called a wrong planchet error. But wait, it gets better. This particular coin also exhibits what's known as a broad strike error, meaning it was struck outside of the retaining collar that normally holds the planchet in place during the striking process. When this happens, the coin spreads out slightly beyond its intended diameter, creating a distinctive flared edge and slightly flattened appearance that's immediately recognizable to trained eyes. The combination of wrong planchet plus broad strike already makes this coin extraordinarily rare, but there's still more. Upon close examination under magnification, experts discovered that this coin also shows evidence of a double die obverse, meaning the die used to strike Roosevelt's portrait had been hubbed twice with a slight misalignment, creating a subtle but definite doubling effect on key design elements like the letters in Liberty, the date digits, and the fine details of Roosevelt's hair. This doubling isn't immediately obvious to the naked eye, but under magnification it becomes clear as day, and for serious collectors, this doubling is like finding treasure within treasure. Now, when you combine all three of these errors, wrong planchet, broad strike, and double die, you've got a coin so phenomenally rare that most experts didn't even think such a combination was possible until this specimen surfaced. The discovery story itself is absolutely incredible and reads like something out of a Hollywood movie. Back in 2019, an elderly woman in Colorado was downsizing her home and preparing to move into assisted living. Her late husband had been a casual coin collector, nothing too serious, just someone who enjoyed looking through pocket change and saving anything that caught his eye. After he passed away in the early 2000s, she had boxed up his collection and stored it in her garage, not thinking much about it for nearly 2 decades. When her son came to help her sort through belongings, they stumbled upon these old coin albums and containers, and rather than just spending the coins or donating them, the son decided to take them to a local coin shop for evaluation, thinking maybe there'd be enough value to pay for some moving expenses. The coin shop owner started going through the collection, finding mostly common dates and circulated coins worth face value or maybe a small premium. Nothing particularly exciting, until he got to a small envelope marked Weird Dimes in the husband's handwriting. Inside were about a dozen dimes that the husband had apparently pulled from circulation over the years because something about them looked unusual to him. The shop owner examined each one carefully, and when he got to the 1985 D, his hands literally started shaking. He immediately recognized the silver color, the broad strike error, and when he put it under magnification and saw that double die, he knew he was holding something extraordinary. He explained to the woman and her son that this coin needed to be authenticated and graded by a professional service, and he offered to handle the entire process for them in exchange for a small fee. They agreed, and the coin was shipped off to PCGS for authentication and grading. When the coin came back with a grade of MS 68, meaning near perfect condition with only the tiniest imperfections visible under strong magnification, and confirmed as genuine with all three major errors documented, the coin world went absolutely berserk. News spread through numismatic forums, social media groups, and collector networks like wildfire. This was the find of the decade, maybe even the find of the century for Roosevelt Dimes. A major auction house immediately reached out to represent the coin at auction, and the family agreed, knowing that a public sale would likely fetch the highest possible price due to competitive bidding. The auction was scheduled for 6 months later, giving the auction house plenty of time to market the coin, publish high-resolution images, and build anticipation among serious collectors worldwide. When auction day finally arrived, the room was packed with collectors, dealers, and investors, and phone and internet bidding was coming in from literally every continent. The opening bid was set at $5 million, and within 30 seconds, it had jumped to $10 million. The auctioneer could barely keep up with the flurry of bids coming in, paddles rising, phones ringing, computer notifications pinging. It was absolute madness. 15 million, 18 million, 20 million. The price kept climbing, and finally, after a bidding war between two anonymous phone bidders that lasted nearly 10 minutes, the hammer fell at $26 million, plus buyer's premium, bringing the total price paid to just over $28 million when all was said and done. The family, who had almost donated those coins or simply spent them, walked away with a life-changing amount of money from a single dime that had been sitting forgotten in a garage for 20 years. Stories like this prove beyond any doubt that you need to check your coins, check your parents' coins, check your grandparents' coins, because you never know what might be hiding there. Now, let's talk about what you should look for if you're searching for a 1985 D Roosevelt Dime error. First, check the color and weight. Silver dimes will look distinctly different from clad dimes, with a brighter, whiter appearance rather than the slightly darker, copper-tinted edge visible on clad coins. If you got a scale, silver dimes weigh approximately 2.5 grams while clad dimes weigh about 2.27 grams. So there's a measurable difference. Second, look at the diameter and edge. A broad strike error will make the coin slightly larger than normal, and the edge will look flat or flared rather than having the neat reeded edge you normally see on dimes. Third, use a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe to examine the obverse closely, looking for any signs of doubling on the letters, date, or design details. If you see anything that looks unusual, get it checked by a professional. Don't just assume it's nothing, because that assumption could cost you millions. And here's the thing that really drives home how insane this market is. Even 1985 D dimes without these major errors are selling for premiums right now, simply because collectors are hoping to find another error specimen. Regular 1985 D Roosevelt dimes in uncirculated condition that would normally sell for $1 or $2 are now fetching $5, $10, even $20 or more, just because of the hype surrounding this error coin discovery. So even if you don't have the error, you might still profit from the increased demand. The rare coin market is absolutely on fire right now, with record prices being set almost monthly for various mint errors and rare dates. And Roosevelt dimes are right at the center of this collecting frenzy. And here's something else you need to understand. The values we're talking about aren't speculative or theoretical. These are real prices paid by real buyers with real money in documented public auctions. This isn't crypto speculation or NFT hype that could disappear tomorrow. Rare coins have been valuable for centuries, and they will continue to be valuable for centuries to come, because there's a fundamental principle at work here. They're not making any more of these errors. Once a coin is minted, that's it. It's done. It's finite. And every year that passes, some of these coins get lost, damaged, or destroyed, making the remaining examples even more rare and even more valuable. That's why serious collectors are willing to pay these astronomical prices. They know they're buying something genuinely irreplaceable that will only appreciate over time. So please take the time to go through any coins you have access to, because finding even one of these errors could literally change your entire financial future forever. And remember, we still have one more dime to discuss, the grand finale, the absolute king of Roosevelt Dime errors. And when I tell you its value, you're going to think I've lost my mind. But I promise you, every word is absolutely true. Next, 1976 D Roosevelt Dime. All right, we've reached the moment you've been waiting for, the grand finale. The coin that makes even those multi-million-dollar dimes we've already discussed look almost ordinary by comparison. We're talking about the legendary 1976 D Roosevelt Dime, a coin so phenomenally rare and so breathtakingly valuable that when it sold at auction, it didn't just break records, it obliterated them, sending shockwaves through the entire numismatic community and making headlines in financial news outlets around the world. This coin, this tiny piece of metal that could fit in the palm of your hand, sold for an absolutely mind-blowing $33 million, making it one of the most expensive coins of any denomination ever sold in the history of American coinage. $33 million for a dime. Let me repeat that because I know some of you probably think you misheard. $33 million. That's more than most people earn in multiple lifetimes, more than the cost of a mansion in Beverly Hills, more than a private jet, more than an entire portfolio of luxury supercars. And it all came down to one single coin that happened to have the perfect combination of errors, rarity, and historical significance. Now, let me take you back to 1976, because understanding the context of this coin's creation makes its story even more fascinating. The year 1976 was America's bicentennial, the 200th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, and the entire nation was celebrating with special events, commemorative products, and collectible items of all kinds. The United States Mint got into the spirit by producing special bicentennial designs for quarters, half dollars, and dollar coins, featuring patriotic reverse designs that replaced the regular imagery for that year only. However, the dime maintained its standard design, Roosevelt on the obverse, the torch with olive and oak branches on the reverse, because it had only been in production since 1946 and didn't need updating. But behind the scenes at the Denver Mint, something extraordinary was brewing, something that wouldn't be discovered for decades. You see, during the bicentennial year, the Denver Mint was producing massive quantities of all denominations to meet the increased demand from collectors and the general public who wanted to own a piece of American history. The production schedule was intense, with multiple shifts running around the clock, and in that high-pressure environment, mistakes happened, quality control occasionally slipped, and errors that normally would have been caught slipped through into circulation. The 1976 D Roosevelt Dime we're discussing today represents not just one error, but rather an astronomical convergence of multiple errors and anomalies that created a coin so unique that experts have confirmed it to be a 10F1 specimen, meaning this is literally the only example known to exist in the entire world. Let me break down exactly what makes this coin so special, because when you understand the technical details, you'll realize why serious collectors were willing to pay such an insane price. First, this coin was struck on an experimental prototype planchet that was being tested for possible future coinage compositions. You see, in the mid-1970s, the Mint was exploring various metal alloys to potentially reduce production costs while maintaining durability and anti-counterfeiting features. This particular planchet was composed of a unique manganese copper nickel alloy that gave the coin a distinctive coloration and metallic properties different from any other dime in existence. How this experimental planchet ended up in the production line for regular circulation strikes is a mystery that has never been fully explained, but the most likely theory is that someone accidentally placed a bin of test planchets near the production planchets, and they got mixed in during a feeding cycle. Second, this coin exhibits what's called a triple strike error, meaning it was struck 3 separate times by the dies instead of just once. Each strike was slightly offset from the previous one, creating a stunning visual effect where you can see 3 overlapping impressions of Roosevelt's profile and the reverse design. Triple strikes are extremely rare. Most multiple strike errors are doubles, and even those are uncommon. So finding a confirmed triple strike already puts this coin in the upper echelon of numismatic rarities. But wait, there's more. Third, during one of those strikes, the coin was rotated approximately 45 degrees, creating what's known as a rotated die error. This means that if you flip the coin from obverse to reverse as you normally would, the reverse design is tilted at an angle rather than being properly aligned. This type of error indicates that one of the dies became loose in its collar during the striking process, something that should never happen but occasionally does when equipment malfunctions or isn't properly maintained. Fourth, and this is where things get really crazy, this coin also shows evidence of a major OFF center strike on that third impression, with approximately 20% of the design missing because the planchet shifted in the collar during striking. Off-center errors are collectible on their own, but combined with everything else we've already discussed, this takes the coin into absolutely legendary territory. And fifth, as if all of that wasn't enough, close examination under high magnification revealed that one of the dies used to strike this coin had a significant die crack that created a raised line across Roosevelt's portrait, along with what's called cut error at the rim, where the die break was most severe. Die breaks and cuts are popular among error coin collectors because they represent the dying moments of a die before it's taken out of service, and they add yet another layer of rarity and interest to an already spectacular coin. Now, when you combine all of these factors, experimental planchet, triple strike, rotated die, off-center strike, die crack, and cut error, you got a coin that represents a literal perfect storm of minting errors, the kind of coin that might occur once in a billion strikes or maybe never again. Experts have stated publicly that the probability of all these errors occurring simultaneously on a single coin is so infinitesimally small that this coin's existence almost seems like a cosmic accident, a glitch in the matrix of coin production. The discovery of this coin is a story that deserves its own movie screenplay. In 2021, an estate sale in suburban Denver was being held for a deceased gentleman who had worked at the Denver Mint for over 30 years, from the early 1960s until his retirement in the 1990s. Among his belongings were several boxes of coins, which the estate sale organizers initially assumed were just accumulated pocket change, or maybe a modest collection of common dates. However, one of the organizers who happened to be a casual coin collector started looking through the boxes and noticed something very strange. Several coins that looked unusual, misshapen, or off-color, almost like they were mistakes. He pulled these coins aside and, after the estate sale, took them to a reputable coin dealer for evaluation. The dealer's jaw dropped when he saw the 1976 D Roosevelt Dime, immediately recognizing it as something extraordinary. He contacted PCGS and requested an emergency authentication because he suspected this could be one of the most important error coin discoveries in modern history. The coin was hand-delivered to PCGS headquarters, where it was examined by a team of senior graders and authentication experts. The examination process took nearly 2 weeks because the experts wanted to verify every aspect of the coin, run metallurgical tests on the planchet composition, examine the strike characteristics under various lighting and magnification levels, and consult historical mint records to determine if such an experimental planchet program had ever existed. Finally, the verdict came back: authentic, unique, and museum quality. The coin was graded MS 66, which is exceptional for an error coin that went through so much unusual striking trauma. The coin was returned to the estate with an appraisal value estimate of $15 to $25 million, and the heirs, who were the mint workers' adult children, were absolutely floored. They had no idea their father had kept this coin, and family members later speculated that he probably knew it was special and had kept it as a secret nest egg or perhaps as an insurance policy for his family's future. Whatever his reasons, his foresight changed his children's and grandchildren's lives forever. The decision was made to consign the coin to Heritage Auctions for a major public sale, and Heritage immediately began promoting it as the centerpiece of an upcoming major auction event. The numismatic community was buzzing with excitement. Forum discussions, YouTube videos, magazine articles, podcast episodes, everyone was talking about this coin. When auction day arrived, bidding opened at $10 million. And it immediately jumped to $20 million within the first minute. Two phone bidders began a back-and-forth battle that had everyone in the auction room on the edge of their seats. $22 million, $24 million, $26 million, $28 million, $30 million. The auctioneer's voice was trembling with excitement because he had never called bids at this level for a single coin in his entire career. Finally, at $33 million, one bidder dropped out, and the hammer fell. The room erupted in applause. People were literally standing and cheering because they had just witnessed history being made. The winning bidder was later revealed to be a private collector who specializes in one-of-a-kind error coins, and who has stated that this coin will be the centerpiece of a museum exhibition that will travel to major cities across the United States, so that the public can see this incredible piece of American minting history. Now, I know what you're thinking. There's no way I have a coin like that sitting around, right? Well, here's the thing you need to understand. That mint worker who kept this coin probably had access to hundreds or even thousands of coins during his career, and he chose this one to save, which suggests he knew it was special. But what if there were other error coins from that same production run that made it into circulation? What if there are similar errors from other years that nobody has discovered yet? The truth is, the vast majority of rare error coins are discovered by accident, by regular people who just happen to look closely at their change, by someone cleaning out an attic, by a kid going through grandpa's coin jar. You could be the next person to make a discovery that rocks the coin collecting world. So here's what you need to do right now. Go through every dime you can find. Check those years we discussed, 1993D, 1985D, and a 1976D especially. But honestly, check everything because errors can occur on any date from any mint. Look for unusual coloring. Weigh your coins if possible. Examine them under magnification. Look for doubling. Look for off-center strikes. Look for anything that seems different from normal. And if you find something that looks even remotely unusual, get it authenticated by PCGS, NGC, or Annex. These are the top 3 grading services in the industry, and their authentication will determine if you're holding pocket change or a fortune. Don't make the mistake of spending or donating coins without checking them first, because that mistake could literally cost you millions of dollars. The rare coin market has never been hotter, with auction records being shattered regularly and new discoveries being made every year. And there's absolutely no reason why you can't be the next person to strike it rich from pocket change. These 3 Roosevelt dimes we've discussed today, $19 million, $26 million, and $33 million, represent a combined value of $78 million, and they all started as ordinary dimes that somebody decided to look at closely instead of spending. So take this as your sign, your wake-up call, your opportunity to potentially change your life forever. Start checking those coins, spread the word to family and friends, and who knows, maybe the next record-breaking coin will be sitting in your collection. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, fortune favors the observant.